Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools. Let's Build, where we build different applications to help scrappy bootstrappers just like yourself figure out how to overcome some of the hurdles that they're facing or just to make themselves more efficient in their everyday operations. Now, before we dive into today's topic, make sure to check out our YouTube channel. We got lots of videos up there that talk about all different types of low-code and no-code solutions, such as Retool, Google Scripts, Google Sheets, Google Data Studio, as well as many others. If you don't see something that you're looking for here, feel free to shoot an email to feedback@bootstrapping.tools, and we'll be happy to take a look at that application and possibly make a video just for you. Now, today's topic, we're going to be discussing connecting Retool to Shopify's GraphQL API. If you don't know what GraphQL is, that's okay. It's essentially just another API type that you can connect to. Instead of connecting to specific endpoints, you just connect to a single GraphQL endpoint and you pass it queries to get the data out of it. But enough of that. Let me show you how this works. We're going to first start off by connecting your Retool account to the Shopify GraphQL endpoints. So let's go check it out. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Retool and go into the Resources tab, which you can find up on the upper side over here. And then you're going to select the API connector that you want. We used the REST API in a couple of the other videos, but for this one, we're going to be using the GraphQL one. So when you click on that, you're going to see some really similar fields to a typical API connector. Let's go ahead and just name this Shopify GraphQL. And then the base URL, same thing as it was before. We head over to our Shopify documentation over here. You're going to see a lot of stuff that for basic authentication. If we scroll down over to some of the examples here, we'll see that the URL is going to be the yourshopname.myshopify and then the endpoint. So admin API is the one that we're connecting to along with the version. And then for the REST API, we had products, we had orders, we had variants, we had a bunch of different object.json endpoints that we're using. For GraphQL though, actually a little bit different. It's only just one endpoint, and that's going to be the GraphQL .json endpoint. And that's the reason for that is because GraphQL is just you're sending queries into it. So you're just hitting one endpoint, and then you're going to send it a bunch of things that you want to provide. So for instance, this one right here is just collecting the first 5 products and then getting the ID and the handle from it, and also some page info based on the API endpoint, the GraphQL one, just to see if you need to paginate through that. But more on that later. Let's go ahead and go back over to Retool and let's paste this in to our base URL section. I'm just going to rename that shop in the curly brackets over to whatever your shop name is. For our case, it's bootstrapping-tools.myshopify, and then make sure that the end over there is graphql.json. And then for the URL parameters and headers and stuff, don't worry about any of this stuff. Doesn't really matter. The authentication is the part that does matter. Click on that, and then we're going to be selecting basic auth, same the way that we did it for the REST API version. So just select that. You're going to get a basic auth username and a password. And you can get that straight from our Shopify app here. So let's go over there. And then within there, you're going to see an option on the left-hand sidebar menu called Apps. So when you click on that, it's going to take you over to all the apps that you have installed for your Shopify store. And to get your API key, scroll down to the bottom and then click on the text link that says Manage Private Apps. Once you click on that, it's going to take you over to all the private apps that you have. For us, it's the Retool demo. And then once you click in there, it's going to load up, and then you'll be able to see in the Admin API section the keys that you're going to want. So it gives us a little bit of time just to load up. Shopify can be a little slow sometimes, but that's okay. Once that loads up, in the admin API section, you're going to get API key, and then you're going to get a password. And all you have to do is just take that, copy, and then paste it in to your username, and then your password. Of course, it's always good to test things. So on the bottom over here, you're going to get a little test connection button that you can use. So it's going to run. What Retool is doing is essentially going into Shopify, making a call to it just to make sure that there is a success or a 200 response back to us. And we got a successful connection now. So we can go ahead and create this resource. And then from there, let's start testing out the queries. All right, so back into the Retool query library. I got one just kicked off for us here. If you need to create a new one, there's a button up here that you can just click on the upper left. on that, and then just make sure that for your resource, you're selecting the GraphQL connection that you made with Shopify. Now, if you're not familiar with GraphQL and how you make all the queries, essentially how you build those queries, we're going to walk through a really simple one right now. One thing I do want to mention though is Retool gives you this kind of Explorer option over here on the right-hand tray bar. It's basically just an Explorer, and it's going to give you all the available objects that you can query against within this GraphQL endpoint. If we will search over here, actually want the products. So go ahead and click on product, and then within here, you're going to see, you can get different nodes from it, as well as a bunch of different fields created at default, cursor, description, all of that. But let's dive into making a query here. So let's delete all this this placeholder text, and then let's start off with some curly brackets, and then we're going to say products, and then we're just going to get the first 10 products out of here. Just keep it simple. So within here, you're going to see something. You got to do edges, and you got to do node. Essentially what that means is you're just kind of diving into the products you're going to find for each product that is available within this products object. Get that product and then go into the node for that to obtain the data from it. So we're going to grab the ID, we're going to grab the title, description, and then there's a couple of interesting things. You notice that there's this autocomplete that's been showing up for it. And just go ahead and click on total. So it'll kind of just display to you all the available things that you can get. And this nice autocomplete field is super helpful when we're diving in to everything here. So also get the total variance as well. So let's go ahead and test this. You can hit the preview button up on the upper right hand corner of it, right next to the save button. Just make sure that our query works. Oops, out. Click on that. And then we're getting some data back now. So as I mentioned before, the edges, you can actually see for each one it represents a product, and then underneath that is a node that includes all the products information. So we have 10 items here because we had first 10. If we did first 15, it'd pull up to 15 items. But of course that depends on how many products that you have within your Shopify store. If you only had 12 and you did first 15, you'd only get 12 back. But the great thing about GraphQL also is that you can dive a little bit deeper in here, so you can kind of nested edges, if you want to call it that. But we said also variance. We wanted to grab that. Have to do first 10, and then within there you also have some edges, and then you gotta get a node for it because they're all their individual objects. So let's get the ID from there. The SKUs are pretty unique for the variants for products. They also have their own titles, and then I believe they have inventory quantity as well. So if we run this, we're going to see that we can get back within one of these products. There is a variant within it. So this one has 3 edges within it. So there are 3 variants for this product. And within each one of those, we're getting back the ID for it, which this is the GraphQL ID, and then the SKU number, the title, and then the amount of inventory that we have for that. That's essentially how you're going to be querying. So we know now that our connection to the Shopify GraphQL endpoint is working because we are able to pull data from it. And this is just a really nice, simple query just to get us started. All right, to show you guys how we're going to build an app with this, let's dive into a Retool app. All right, so we got a brand new app spun up in Retool just for this. We call it the Shopify GraphQL, or GQL for short. We're going to just demo you guys how we're going to do this. So within one of the queries, just make sure you select the resource type as Shopify demo GraphQL. And then within here, we'll do a very similar to query to what we just did in the query library. So let's do some curly brackets over here. I'm going to do products first. Let's say 20 this time. And then within the curly brackets, you got to get the edges, and you got to get the node. And within that, we got to get a bunch of parameters. So let's go ahead and just do ID, title, description, and then inventory, total inventory. So if we preview that, make sure that our query is right. We're getting data back. So let's go ahead and save this. And let's drop a table into our Retool app to display the data. What you're going to see though is that the data doesn't actually display correctly because it's all as objects as opposed to an array. And these tables require an array. So not to worry though, I'm going to show you a quick way that you can actually reformat this so that it looks a lot better. So scrolling down over to your transformers, go ahead and just enable that. And then right now it's returning data, but instead of doing that, let's say data equals to data dot products dot edges. All right, and that's because we have products and edges within there. And then from there, let's declare products as a variable and then make that an empty array. And we're going to loop through this data and basically just shove that data back into the products array so that we have a nice array for the table to read off of. So let's do a simple for loop here. And do for I equals 0, and then I is less than data.length, I plus plus, parentheses, open and ending curly brackets, and then products dot push. And what we'll be doing is data I dot node. The reason we're doing dot node is if I hit the preview button, let me just show you that what that data looks like again. Within the data products edges, each one in there has an object node that actually contains all that data. So we got to grab it out of the node. So now that we have this, we're going to return products. Preview this. And now we see that within data, we have each one in there. So let's go ahead and save and run this. And then we need to fix our data reference in here for the table. As you can see over in our table, we can see all the data in a nice and neat way. Whoop, make this smaller. And so we got the ID, the title, the description, and the inventory amount. And that's essentially what you're going to do to build out some of your applications in Retool using GraphQL responses. But yeah, it's simple as that. You can run all different types of GraphQL queries that you want. The mutation one is how you're going to do post request, or it's the equivalent of a post request to manipulate data in the Shopify API. But then this regular simple query one will allow you to get information out of GraphQL just by passing in all the different parameters that you want within it. But that's it for this video. If you did run into any issues, feel free to leave a comment in the section below. We'll be happy to take a look at your question and help you get over whatever hurdles or bumps that you're hitting along the way as you set up your Retool app to get data out of Shopify's GraphQL endpoint. Of course, if you did like the video, make sure to hit that like button. It is the best way to support this channel and help us show up in the search results so that other scrappy bootstrappers just like yourself can learn just like you did. Which we've got other videos coming out as well, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. We got all sorts of videos that go through all different types of applications, including Google App Scripts, of course Retool, just like this one. Google Data Studio is another popular app that we're working with. We're also looking into doing things for AppSheet, Airtable, BaseQL, as well as many others. But I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools. Let's build. It's been a pleasure, and we're out.